And welcome into Protect and Grow Chicagoland Retirement with Chicagoland's certified financial planning professional. He is founder of TJ Stearns Inc. Tim Stearns, CFP, here with us, helping us be more informed about our money, our investments, our finance, and our plans for retirement. And Tim, the biggest thing that people want to know is my retirement plan going to fail? And yet a lot of people don't actually take the time to stress test some of the biggest risks that could cause our retirement plan to fail.
Well, it's funny, Peter, most retirement plans are built assuming that, the markets will cooperate, inflation will remain manageable, taxes won't change dramatically, that your health will remain good, retirement will unfold according to your plan. But life rarely folds the best case, unfolds, following the best case scenario.
Yeah.
So, if your retirement were stress tested today, would it pass?
Right. And Tim, if we look at like engineering examples before traffic's allowed to cross a bridge, before an airline plane takes off, they stress test it, right? They make sure that it is built to standards, that it is going to uphold under the worst conditions. I remember there's a very famous example of a bridge in Washington that they did not stress test, and when the wind blew, the whole thing rocked like a wave, and unfortunately it failed and collapsed. So they are very careful to stress test things, and we should treat our retirement plan no differently. We should be stress testing it for some of these big risks that can impact us.
Exactly, because the last thing you want to do is realize that it won't withstand a stress test of, like, let's say, a 30% drop during your first year of retirement.
What happens, Tim, to plans if we see a big downturn like that? And how can we make sure that our plan would survive?
So let's imagine that, Peter. You've got your 1.5 million. You have Social Security just began. You're withdrawing income monthly. 6 months later, the market falls 30%. What happens next?
Right. And Tim, I mean, I think that is one of the fears, maybe the biggest fear when we think of concerns for retirement. I think our minds automatically go to the market. But what are the possible preparation strategies to remain confident if that were to happen?
Well, there's different strategies you could take. You could do the bucket approach. You could have cash reserves, guaranteed income sources, just diversify withdrawal strategies. But at the end of the day, sequence risk matters. Timing is certainly everything, and prepare before volatility arrives.
Well, no problem, Tim. I'll just retire into a period where I know the next several years are going to be great years in the market, right? Like we can all predict and foresee when that's going to happen.
Especially after we've had about 17 years of a bull market. That's hard to do, right, Peter?
Yeah. So, Tim, in reality, how many people are appropriately stress testing their investments in their portfolio?
I don't think very many. In fact, I think a lot of people are thinking the bull market's going to go on forever and ever.
Mhm. Tim, the market's not the only thing that can derail our retirement. What other stress tests do we need to be thinking about?
Well, a big one that we're seeing is, what if one of the spouses passes away? What happens then? One of the Social Security checks disappears. Your tax filing changes from married filing jointly to single. Do your tax bracket become smaller? Medicare IRMA thresholds they become lower. Many household expenses, though, they remain exactly the same. This is often called the widow's penalty.
So the stress test is to make sure that a surviving spouse would remain financially secure, Tim, regardless of when one spouse might pass away.
Right. You want to make sure that, that they understand that widowhood changes finances dramatically, taxes often increase, and the planning protects surviving spouses by having, a protect and grow plan that it's built into that.
What are some of the financial considerations that get overlooked here with this particular circumstance to stress test?
Well, I mean, the big thing is that you could pop yourself up into the IRMA, which a lot of people don't understand that the IRMA penalties, where you are actually charged more for your Medicare because you're earning too much money. There's other things that happen as far as the taxes actually increase, even though you're earning the same amount of money. It's just that you're not filing jointly anymore.
Are there any planning considerations that would be appropriate to prepare for this, Tim?
Well, sure. You could be doing Roth conversions early on. Maybe earlier than that, you could be doing looking at life insurance, beneficiary planning, and of course, looking at your estate organization.
Things that unfortunately sometimes get overlooked, we don't stress test that can absolutely impact our retirement negatively, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're talking about on today's program. And then, of course, asking the question, have you stress test your portfolio? And if it's been a while, if you'd like to do a review, an evaluation, if you'd like to look at scenarios to make sure that you have stress tested appropriately, pick up the phone and give Tim Stearns, CFP, and TJ Stearns Inc. a call, 800 640 2256. That's 800 640 2256. 800 640 2256. Other scenarios, Tim, that you encourage people to think about, consider, and stress test?
Yeah. What if you live too long? What if you live to be age 100, which sounds great in some cases, but those are things that, living too long may be a greater challenge. A healthy 65-year-old couple today has a very real possibility that one of the spouses could live well into their 90s. That could mean a retirement lasting 30 to 35 years. So the question isn't, will the money last 20 years? The question is, will my income last as long as I do?
And as you are looking at that possibility of longevity, doing that stress testing, Tim, what are some of the strategies that we come up with that are reasonable and appropriate if this is a concern for us?
Well, you could delay Social Security. You want to look at lifetime income strategies that you can't outlive, reasonable withdrawal rates, long-term growth investments, and of course, having inflation protection.
Do you think people have realistic expectations about what a reasonable withdrawal rate is, Tim?
I don't. I think a lot of people don't really understand that number. What is the correct one? I see people shooting too low. I see them shooting too high, and they don't really understand it.
I've even heard, very well-known financial gurus that have their own programs and systems that are on saying that it's, a very high number. And then like right there in their program, their own families and co-hosts who are right along beside them say, well, maybe that's not as realistic as you'd like it to be. But Tim, I mean, you are helping people hand in hand design those protect and grow plans. Do you help people understand what is a realistic, sustainable, dependable cash flow?
Absolutely. In the Protect and Grow plan, we're going to talk about what is sustainable and what is not. And by doing that, you're going to make sure that we drill down on what the numbers look like so that they can understand where that is and where it is not. I think people have unrealistic expectations sometimes.
We want longevity to be a blessing, not to create unplanned, unprepared for
Right.
financial
For it not to be
challenges.
a curse.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Again, we are talking about stress testing your portfolio. The most major issues that unfortunately often get overlooked that we need to examine very carefully to make sure that we have mapped out our plan to withstand some of the biggest risks to retirement. Another one I know you talk a lot about, Tim, is or are taxes and what happens if taxes are higher 10 years from now than they are today.
Well, right now, taxes are the lowest they've been since 1982. So some of the planning opportunities that we're looking at with our clients are Roth conversions, making sure that you have some tax diversification, tax efficient withdrawal sequencing, managing your future RMDs before you're turning on like Social Security and having to do RMDs and that type of thing. And then, of course, looking at legislative risk management, making sure that you know what's going on in Congress. The question isn't whether taxes will change, it's whether your retirement plan is flexible enough to adapt with them.
Not if, but when, right?
Of
When will
course.
taxes change? And certainly, almost certainly, probably not in our favor when they do. But Tim, the place that the majority of Americans have saved the majority of their retirement dollars are in these tax deferred traditional IRAs or traditional 401ks.
Right. And that's your biggest tax time bomb that we have going. So you need to get ahead of it. You know you're going to pay taxes in it.
Another big area of concern that people may or may not have thought about all the way through, certainly not stress tested, Tim, the medical expenses that we might incur, particularly if we incur long-term care.
Well, you have a 7 out of 10 chance if you're over the age of 60, and we are seeing 9 out of 10 of Americans have not taken that into account. You might need assisted living, home health care, skilled nursing, memory care, and those costs can quickly reach six figures annually. Some of the planning opportunities that we've talked to our clients about are long-term care insurance, the hybrid life insurance, which I'm partial to because my wife and I own that. Healthcare reserve planning, where you put some money aside for that. Having guaranteed income strategies, and of course, asset protection, using an estate attorney for things like that. Healthcare can dramatically impact your retirement. Planning protects your independence, and care planning protects your families as well.
Yeah. Would your retirement income continue? Would your spouse remain financially stable? Would your legacy be impacted? All of these are questions that you should ask yourself when stress testing your portfolio. Now, Tim, kind of an interesting question here. Well, what happens if nothing goes wrong? And then what's the true likelihood of that being the case? A lot of people's plans sort of assume rose-colored glasses, everything's rainbow and pie in the sky, acting as if nothing's going to go wrong.
Well, then the good news is you get to enjoy retirement. Your confidence matters and you don't become unnecessarily fearful because you've covered all your bases. I don't think that's the worst thing.
Yeah, especially if you have tested the portfolio to make sure that you are prepared if things do go wrong, Tim, in a much better and more confident kind of mind frame and financial status if we have done those stress tests.
Right. If you get a passing grade, you're having reliable income. You have appropriate investment risk. You've got tax diversification. You have cash reserves. You've done healthcare planning, estate planning, and then you're doing regular reviews to make sure you're on page.
Now, this doesn't eliminate all risks. It just helps us prepare for them, right, Tim?
No plan is going to eliminate all risk, but you're making sure that you're on the right path. Your resilience is going to be the objective, and flexibility creates your confidence.
And this is through different areas of planning. We're not just talking about what can happen in the market, but what impact that can have on your income or with tax planning. What can we address there? Tim, there are several areas in planning. I think we tend to focus on maybe just one of them because our paycheck takes care of the rest of them during our working years. But that all switches and reverses once we do retire, which is why this stress test is so vitally important.
Well, you want to look at the five pillars of the stress test. Those are income, investments, taxes, your care, and then of course legacy if you want to do something like that for your family.
Well,
and once you do that, every pillar should be able to pass that stress test.
and the reality is, Tim, if we've got a plan for our lasting financial confidence, then more than likely something is going to be left over. But if we have not stress tests, if we have not addressed these major risks, then we jeopardize not only the legacy, but indeed even our own lifetime financial security. So life does not always happen or unfold according to plans. And that's what stress testing is all about, right, Tim?
It's exactly right. Markets fluctuate, taxes evolve, healthcare costs rise, families change. But the goal of retirement planning isn't to predict which challenge you'll face. The goal is building a retirement that can withstand whichever one arrives first.
Well, Tim, if somebody has questions, if they would like to get that plan put together, if they would like to do some stress testing analysis, how can they be in touch?
Well, they give us a call at 1-800-640-2256. That's 1-800-640-2256.
Or online, ladies and gentlemen, tjstearns.com. Some great additional resources, all of the podcasts, a library of information available there for you. But give a call, 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. Call now, call today, and you are entitled to the design on a complimentary, no-cost basis of your own individual Protect and Grow written retirement blueprint and the process of stress testing your portfolio and your plan. So give a call, 800-640-2256. Tim, as always, a pleasure to have you here on the program, reminding us of the importance of stress testing that portfolio and that plan.
It was my pleasure, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Tune into Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns' full radio program and visit tjstearns.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Chicagoland Retirement. Be sure to subscribe.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs.